What is going on, everyone? I'm coming to y'all with another Magic the Gathering deck tech. This is actually over my Balan Wandering Knight EDH deck. Don't worry, I'm not giving up on Magic. I still adore the card game. I'm just going to be featuring both Magic and DBZ on my channel, as they are both card games that I thoroughly enjoy and find to be a lot of fun. But that does not mean that my content is going to be exclusively of one or the other. So I wanted to show off my Balan Wandering Knight deck because I haven't seen another Balan EDH deck, and I honestly think he is a lot of fun to play as a commander. This originally was a Kemba Kha deck list, and you've probably seen some of the gameplay videos with Kemba Kha, but I felt like Balan just did a little bit more as a commander. Kemba's too passive, and you have to sit back and wait until you get a lot of equipment on her and make a lot of cats. Then you either swing in with her for commander damage, or you shoot up some of the cats with small equipment, and you attack him with them, and the whole thing was just very fragile and boring. While Balan is certainly a glass cannon, I actually find myself very rarely casting him himself, and when I do, I tend to cast him as a finisher. I cannot tell you how many games I've won by just suiting up a lot of different smaller creatures with various equipments, beating in and killing people with those, and then whenever I only have one opponent left, I cast Balan, I pay the 2 mana, attaching every equipment I have to him, and usually I'll have something like Conqueror's Flail on one of my creatures so my opponents can't respond. He'll get all of the equipment, including the things that give Shroud and Haste and Hexproof and all the damage pump, and because I don't target him, he can actually get around the unfortunate downside that Shroud usually brings to a Voltron deck, and he'll just swing in and one-shot the opponent more often than not. Really solid. He's a 3/3 for 4 with First Strike, and he gains Double Strike as long as there are 2 or more equipments attached to him. You can just pay 1 and a white to attach all the equipment you control to him. He is super solid and a lot of fun as a commander. So let's go ahead and get into the deck. Start with my lands. Inventor's Fair, pretty simple, just tutors up one of my equipments for me. Buried Ruin gets one back out of the yard. Scavenger Grounds is what I'm trying in here, and I kind of like it in this deck. It's a way for me to get rid of graveyards without being in black to have Bajuka Bog, which is nice. Both Ghost Quarter and Tech Edge, because I don't have a spare Wasteland or Strip Mine, these will be swapped out whenever I get them. Temple of the False God, pretty run-of-the-mill for non-green decks, I would say. Just gives me a little extra mana. Terrain Generator, just pay 2 and tap to put a basic from your hand into play or make a colorless with it. And Landscape also goes and finds us 2 planes. Ancient Den is here just for the count towards Affinity and Metalcraft. I don't think there's actually any Affinity in here, but the Metalcraft type synergies is what it's here for. And the rest of the lands are planes. I actually didn't even bother counting how many there were, so I apologize for that. I know there's 35 lands in the deck, so however many of the non-basics there were, plus a bunch of basic planes. Alright, into the rest of the deck. This is the mana ramp section, so I'm going to breeze through this because most of this is pretty basic. Soul Ring, obvious. Wayfarer's Bauble goes and finds me a plains. Pearl Medallion makes the white spells cost 1 less. Nothing too exciting there. Gift of Estates. I don't see this in enough white decks in Commander. If your opponent has more lands than you, and you're in white, so they probably will, search your library for up to 3 plains cards, reveal them, and then put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it doesn't put them into play, it isn't a ramp spell, but it does help you hit your land drops. Obviously, land tax is the better choice, but I don't have a spare. Now to the White Orchid, Orchid. I also don't see this played very often. Pretty similar. Whenever it enters the battlefield, if an opponent has more lands than you, search your library for a plains and put it into play. Untapped, by the way. Then shuffle your library. Fun fact about this, if you actually are playing a multicolored deck, this can go grab things like Savannah and Plateau. It doesn't specify basic plains, which is nice. Oreskos Explorer, it's okay. When it ETBs, you search your library for X planes, where X is the number of opponents, or the number of players who have more lands than you, then you put them into your hand. So it's kind of like Gift of Estates, but on a creature. Solemn Simulacrum, really basic, just find you a land, and then whenever he dies, draw a card. Okay, into the equipments. So the first one I'm going to show you are probably 2 of the most versatile equipment because they can become any of the other equipment in the deck. So Masterwork of Ingenuity and Sculpting Steel. More often than not, I use these to become copies of protection-giving equipment, although it's really fun to turn these into copies of stuff like Stratascythe or Bloodforged Battle-Axe or so many other awesome equipment. You can just get really out of hand really quick. These are the unblockable equipment. So we have Prowler's Helm, Trailblazer's Boots, and Whisper Silk Cloak to ensure that we get in for our commander damage unhindered. Then for our protective equipment, we have Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves, as well as Darksteel Plate and Hammer of Nazan, to ensure that we give our creatures, you know, the haste from the protection from the Greaves and the Boots, the Indestructible from the Plate, the Indestructible from the Hammer, as well as the Sigarda's 8 effect that it also provides. Sword of the Animist, it's ramp in non-green, which is really solid. Gives a creature 1/1 whenever it attacks. You search for a basic, put it into play tapped. Really, really solid for decks that aren't in green and that need the mana around. Mask of Memory is a card I don't see played nearly enough. I feel like this card should be in quite a few mono red decks that actually care about attacking, as well as quite a few mono white decks that care about attacking. Because whenever the equipped creature damages an opponent, or damages a player, technically, combat damages a player specifically, you draw 2 cards, and then if you do discard a card from your hand, 2 mana equipment, only costs 1 to equip, really solid, and gives white the card advantage it needs to sculpt our hand. Conqueror's Flail. Why? Because turning any creature into Grand Abolisher is solid. Yes, it's 2 to equip and 2 to play to give our creature +1/+1, because we'll never have more than 1 color amongst our permanents, but that doesn't matter. Keeping our opponents from casting spells during our turn is very solid. It keeps counterspell stuff off. It keeps instant speed removal off when we're trying to go in for our damage. It is necessary for the deck. And I feel like Conqueror's Flail needs to be in practically every Voltron deck. Basilisk Collar. Death Touch and Lifelink turns our creature into a nice rattlesnake, but it's mostly there for the lifelink because we can get damaged out pretty quickly when opponents see we're playing a Voltron deck. And nothing will unite your opponents against you more than if you just one-shot one of your other opponents. Infect players know the pain all too well, and Voltron players know this pain all too well. So being able to get back some of that life to stay in the game is necessary. Umezawa's Jite. Just kind of a utility equipment in the deck. A lot of folks aren't a big fan of the Jite, but I think that it does enough to warrant being played in EDH. It can either pump, it can kill creatures, it can gain you life. It's solid all the way around, and I don't see why you wouldn't play it. Alright, into the beat-em-up equipments. I currently only have 3 of the swords. I'm missing Light and Shadow and War and Peace, but they will end up in this deck. Body and Mind, even though this is regarded by most as the worst sword in Commander, the look on people's faces whenever I give this to Balan and hit in for, 5... Just say, pretending this is one of the few equipments on there, we'll pretend the other equipments don't give any damage pump. We'll say he's only hitting in for 5 double strike. That means our opponent is milling for 20. We're getting 2 wolf tokens. They are now at 20 commander damage. It's just incredibly solid. The mill does actually do more than you might think. It's really bad against graveyard-type decks, but we simply don't attack that player with it. Feast and Famine, the best sword for Commander. I don't care what anyone says. The untapping all of your lands is too good to ignore. Protection from Golgari is solid because there's a lot of green and black in the format. This gives you protection from Beast Within. It gives you protection from all of the black removal. It gives you protection from so much, and the creatures need that. Of course, they can still Beast Within the sort of Feast and Famine, which happens fairly often, but hey, whatever happens, happens. Sword of Fire and Ice, it's just card draw for the deck. It shocks and draws a card whenever you deal damage with it, and protection from it is still solid. Not the best sword for Commander, but definitely not the worst. Bloodforged Battle-Axe. This gets out of hand so quickly because our Commander has double strike, and so many of the creatures we run for damage have double strike. So +2/+0, sure, whatever. 1 mana equipment, really cheap, 2 to equip, fair cost, I guess. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may create a token, or so you just do create a token of the Bloodforged Battle-Axe. Every token copy will have this ability. So you put this on a single creature with double strike, you hit them, you create 2 more Battle-Axes. You attach those Battle-Axes to the creature that attacked. Next turn you swing in, and then you have 3 double to 6 triggers of the Bloodforged Battle-Axe. And then it goes up the chain from there, and you end up with so many Bloodforged Battle-Axes, which is nuts when you combine with something like Puresteel Paladin, because you will draw a lot of cards, and you will just get to attach them all for free. The card is ridiculously good. As well as stuff like the Hammer of Nazan and the Sigarda's 8 can help attach for free. Godsend, this is one that I will cut for one of the other swords whenever I get it. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. 3/3 and pseudo-evasion in the form that we get to exile a creature that's blocking us is really solid. The second part is completely irrelevant in Commander unless we're playing against a Relentless Rat or Shadowborn Apostle deck. Stratascythe, because giving our creatures +12/+12 is ridiculously good. Golem Skin Gauntlets for very, very, very similar reasons. Sword of Vengeance, one that I'm also debating cutting for another one of the swords whenever I get it. However, it is a haste enabler, and that's one of the things that I need to have on board before I cast Balan. I will not cast Balan until I have a way to give him haste, and preferably give him some type of protection. So the sword may stay simply for that reason. Okay, into the rest of the deck. We have one Planeswalker, Nahiri the Lithomancer. Create a 1/1 white core and attach an equipment to it. We don't play Skull Clamp, so we can't take advantage of that particular interaction. It's mostly here for the -2 to get an equipment back from our graveyard. And the -10 to make a sword that gets 5/5 and double strike is certainly not bad. I've only gotten to pull it off once, but she's here to recur the artifacts out of our yard. So the first creature we'll show off are the Hate Bearers. Grand Abolisher, as I mentioned before with the flail, it is necessary for any white deck, so that way our opponents don't interrupt us. 8.5 Tails, it just gives us protection, which, again, this deck needs desperately. It's a way to keep Balan from being killed if we don't have, like, a Lightning Greaves on board, and we need that. Thalia, really solid. Our opponent's creatures and non-basic lands enter tapped 3/2 for a strike for 3. Oftentimes, I'll even equip her up just to punch in with it, because any creature in this deck is decent to equip. There are just some in here that are notably better than the others. But the Hate Bearers do end up getting equipped and punching in every now and again, which is kind of funny. Leonin Arbiter is not really a Hate Bearer, it's more protection for our artifacts. It gives them hexproof, so our opponents just simply can't blow them up. And then we have our synergistic creatures, creature that synergize with artifacts. Sram, whenever we cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle, draw a card. It's only here for when we cast an equipment effect. White needs all the card advantage it can get. Puresteel Paladin is the strictly better version. Whenever an equipment comes into play under your control, you may draw a card, and it has Metalcraft, so as long as you have 3 or more artifacts, your equip cost is 0, which is nuts. Combine this with Bloodforged Battle-Axe, we just draw practically, a third of our deck or an eighth of our deck, depending on how many equipments we have in play, or how many that were already in play. You just slam those down, auto-attach them. It's ridiculously good. I search for this guy as often as I can with Recruiter of the Guard. Steelshaper. Equip cost 1 less, and then as long as it's equipped, soldiers and knights you control get +1/+1. Okay, doesn't seem like much. That 1 less equip cost, though, can be the difference between a game loss and a victory. It just gives us the early advantage, it effectively ramps us this way, and it doesn't say other soldiers and knights, so worst case scenario, he's going to pump himself +1/+1. Not the worst thing to ever happen. Leonin Shikari, you can play the equip abilities of equipments at any time you can play an instant. It's just to instantly move around your Lightning Greaves and your Swiftfoot Boots to creatures that are trying to be removed. Or some really fun combat tricks. If you swing with 2 creatures and your opponent blocks one, move the equipment on the creature that's not getting on the creature that's getting blocked to the one that isn't, and deal more damage. Always fun. Stonehaven Outfitter. Kind of interesting. Whenever an equipped creature you control dies, draw a card, and equipped creatures get +1/+1. Obviously, this doesn't play well with Skull Clamp, but we don't play Skull Clamp, so I don't have to worry about that. Again, it's card draw in a color that desperately needs all that it can get. Alright, here is our beat-em-up creatures. These are the guys we want to give a bunch of swords to and punch people in the face. Toolcraft Exemplar gets +2/+1 on our turn as long as we control an artifact. So he is a 3/2 for 1 that will get pumped even further by our artifacts, by our equipments, and then if we have 3 or more artifacts, so if we have Metalcraft, he also gains first strike. Just an ideal creature to equip. Kor Duelist is basic but very lovable. He gains double strike as long as he's equipped, which is solid. Sunspear Shikari, 2/2 for 2, that gets first strike and lifelink as long as it's equipped. Again, we need to recuperate that life. Auriok Edgewright gains double strike as long as we have Metalcraft online. Double strike is solid with all these when we deal combat damage effects we have in the deck. Mirran Crusader is a 2/2 for 3 with double strike and pro Golgari. Yet again, evasion, protection, and double strike, some of the key elements of this deck. Silverblade Paladin, would you look at that? It and the soulbound creature gained double strike. So yet another way we can punch in for a lot of damage, help finish our opponents off, get double use off the when we deal combat damage effects. Are you seeing a theme yet? Kemba Kha Regent. She is still in the deck. She definitely earned her place inside the 99. What I'll often do is throw a bunch of those Bloodforged Battle-Axe copies onto her, and then just punch in with her, and then make a bunch of tiny little babies that I can also give Bloodforged Battle-Axe copies to, so my opponents are getting hit by a creature no matter what. I'm always making more copies of the card. It's solid. It just wasn't as good as a commander, but still solid in the 99. And Sun Titan, a 6/6 for 6 with Vigilance. This is more of a utility creature than anything else. When he enters or attacks, we can return a permanent with mana cost of 3 or less from our graveyard to our battlefield. This is here to get back equipment first and foremost. And he does a very good job at it. He's also kind of scary to see barreling at you whenever you have a lot of equipment on him. Tutors of the deck. Alright, well, Enlightened Tutor is pretty plain and simple. We tutor for an artifact or enchantment and put it into our hand, or put it on top of our library. We'll use this during our opponent's end step or during our upkeep. Go find one of our better equipment, or something like Sigarda's Aid, or Hammer and Dazan, or whatever the case may be, and just get as much advantage as we can on the opponents. Steelshaper Gift tutors for an equipment and puts it in our hand. Kind of hard to say no to that. Just a solid tutor. Open the Armory does it for an aura or equipment. That aura part doesn't matter, but 2 mana to for an equipment? I'll take it. Stoneforge Mystic. If you're playing Voltron, you need a Stoneforge Mystic. Tutors for an equipment, and you can pay 1 and a white to tap it to put an equipment from your hand into play, which can help avoid the cost of some of the, quote, more expensive equipment in this deck. We don't run anything big and dumb like our Gentleman Armor, but it's still solid for getting out 3-cost equipment for only 2 mana. Relic Seeker, the Poor Man's Stoneforge. It has Renown 1. When it becomes Renowned, you tutor for an equipment. Recruiter of the Guard. This is here first and foremost to go find Puresteel Paladin, or Sram, or any of our creatures, really, because most of them have a toughness of 2 or less. It finds whatever we need for the situation that we need it. And that's why this deck runs so many different creatures. There's a lot of utility creatures, a lot of really good attackers, and this guy makes sure that we find whatever we need when we need it. I have also killed people by suiting up Recruiter of the Guard, and that tends to piss them off, which is kind of funny. Taj-Nar Swordsmith. When an ETBs, you can pay X, and then tutor for an equipment that costs X or less, and put it into play. Really solid. He just puts an equipment from our deck onto the battlefield. Usually late game we'll have a lot of spare mana because our creatures are already equipped, or are running low on a hand, or we're just, we're in a commanding position in the first place, and he helps us close out the game. Steelshaper Apprentice. Pay a white and tap, bounce him to your hand, and tutor for an equipment. Yeah, I mean, it's just another tutor in white. I'm shocked I don't see him play more often. Mentor the Meek. He is a draw creature, kind of a utility creature. Again, almost every creature in this deck has power or toughness of 2 or less, so paying 1 to draw a card when a creature ETBs is just a nice advantage. Sigarda's Aid. We can cast equipment as though they have flash, and when they ETB, we can just attach them to a creature we control. Really solid and avoids the equip costs. Into Removal. I'm going to speed through these because you guys know what they do. Path to Exile, 1-drop removal. Swords to Plowshares, 1-drop removal. Dispatch, it's 1 for an instant, tap target creature, but if you have Metalcraft, exile that creature instead. So, yeah, 1-drop removal. Return to Dust, exile an artifact or enchantment. If it's cast during our main phase, we exile another artifact or enchantment. This should be in practically every white deck you ever play. It's one of the best removal spells white ever got. Grasp of Fate. Not the best spell in the world, but I have a lot of fun with it. I can tutor it with the Enlightened Tutor if I need to, and just get rid of something everyone controls. Wrath of God, because we do need some board wipes. And Fumigate, because token decks are a thing, and we need ways to deal with them. So yeah, that was my Balan Wandering Knight EDH deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you want to see some other commander decks in the future, I'll be happy to show them off. I still have several to show you. I have my Melek Storm deck. I have my wife's Edgar Markov Vampire deck. I have her Hazazon Tamar deck. I have my Taigam Assaultai Ascendant deck. My Endrick Sar Master Breeder deck. I have a lot of decks you've yet to see. So let me know what you guys want to see in the comments down below. And also let me know if you want me to make a video showing off all of my commander decks, so that way you can pick in that video what you want to see attack on next and what gameplays you want to see. I hope you enjoyed this deck. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. And until next time, peace and take care. Thank you very much for watching.